focus on journaling. So what is journaling? Well, journaling means something to a lot of different people, really. It could be you just write your thoughts down. It could be writing like a diary. It could be writing bullet points. It doesn't really matter what it is, but I want to talk about why journaling is a good idea. Now, I keep holding this little black book up. This is my real journal. I have about 23 of these now for each year over the past 23 years, and it's incredible actually when you start looking back on them. But why is it good? Was it a good idea? Why is it a great idea? Was it a brilliant idea to have a journal? Well, I think one of the great things about journals is that you can use it to write down your goals, and you can keep a better track of your intentions. I've been doing a lot of work recently, and I'm very much into intentions rather than goals, what you're intending to do and the actions you're going to take to do them. It's also a great way of reminding you of what you need to do, and you can also put your ideas on how you're going to do it and just mind dump into a journal what you're trying to do. It's a great accountability tool as well for you to keep yourself accountable. So it'd be interesting if you have a journal, pop that in the chat. Secondly, a journal is good for tracking your growth, tracking your progress and your growth, and if you make journaling a regular habit, you can see how much progress you're making. And, you can revisit previous entries. And I remember starting doing this on holiday, actually. And I used to read the one I did on holiday the year before I went on the next holiday, and you just see how much growth you have. I think for me, there's also something about confidence in a journal. When you write, a journal, you get more confident. You're a confidence boost to yourself, and you can feel proud on what you looked at and what you put into it, and how your life's been, and what you've been doing, and who you've been doing with. I think also a journal is a good way of communicating with your inner self, really, and communicating with other people. And you get that skill of being able to express yourself and your thoughts and ideas. So yeah, that having that communication with yourself. I do it once a week, but other people do it daily. I think it's really great. And when I write in my journal, I sort of write like I'm talking to myself. I'm just going to try and pick one here that isn't too personal. Let's see. So I've written here, for example, in my journal here. This is what I've written on Wednesday, the 2nd of March. Okay, I've put in, and I must have done it in the middle of the week for some reason. I don't know why, but it says here, just checked, and tonight is a new moon, and it's a new moon giant. So what does that mean? And I've listed what that meant for me. Now, actually, I think I might have done a blog about that as well. So that's, a real advantage of that. I find inspiration from my journal as well as I use it, to journal ideas and thoughts of ideas. So sometimes at the end of the month, I journal for the next month and what things I could be doing and what could I be inspired by. I also think that journals are good for reducing stress and anxiety. You can put in your negative thoughts, and some people have talked about that already. Those thoughts that are in your mind, you get them out on paper, and you seem to release them a little bit when they come out on paper. So maybe that's a thing to think about, release those negative thoughts from your mind. And as you write, you might even come up with the solutions, before whatever the challenge is, before that challenge becomes, becomes more of a problem maybe for you. So it's good to reduce, that stress and anxiety that you may feel. And then the last thing, and I've been doing some work on this, it really does strengthen your memory. And I've been doing some work on memory, and I'm going to maybe do a couple of sessions on memory. But if you look, for example, in the various journals, experimental psychology, for example, it helps when you journal to improve your working memory. That is in that memory that you use on a day-to-day basis. And that's why, I always talk about note taking and getting it out of your head, getting stuff out of your head, because you can't keep it all in your brain. You have to have your, what I call the third brain. And people are going to ask me, what's the second brain? Well, you're going to have to look at some work on the second brain. Your gut is your second brain, some people say. But I'll let you look into the work on gut health. But I like to say the third brain is getting it out, and that could be in a journal. It could be on a mind map. It could be, in those programs online that you can use. I use something called Notion. By the way, nothing is sponsored here, but it's a way of putting things out of my mind, and maybe use my iPad and to do that. So they're the reasons why it's good to journal. What about the different types? Well, some people like me just get my journal out and write down my thoughts as they happen. And I do it on a Sunday afternoon, and it really starts off my week. I'm a very much believer the week starts on Sunday. I do on a Sunday, my usual sort of setup is I have a lovely coffee in the morning. I wake up slightly later, cup of coffee. I do some bits and bobs. We make a nice breakfast, and then I come and make videos like this. So my week starts on a Sunday. So I use it, and I literally write like a stream of consciousness. I write down what's happening to me, and I may write down some of the things that I've done in the week, but I use it to capture my emotions and that stream of consciousness. Other people write things like dream journals, and what they do is they write their dreams down, and I think that's a fascinating idea. So they have a dream, they wake up, and they write what their dream, and a lot of people think the dreams are about your brain working through ideas. I personally think that's what it is. I personally think dreams for me is when my brain, my brilliant brain, wants to chew the fat and start to think about some things. And I often, if I can remember my dreams, and there are lots of techniques to remember your dreams, I often ask myself, well, what did that mean, or what could it mean? It doesn't really matter if it doesn't mean that, or who knows what it means. It's your brilliant brain, like putting things in filing cabinets. That's what I see it is. It takes something out, it reads it and goes, oh, what was that all about? Hashtag, what should we put that into? Or what file should we put that into? And it's your brain doing that. But some people write their dream journal down. Others record what food they've had. They write what they've eaten, why they ate it, what they felt like. People have fitness journals to record their achievements and to move forward to the next step. I really, say to people, keep a gratitude journal. I have, when I'm doing my challenges, I do a gratitude daily list. We did one on the 28-day challenge where every day I encouraged everybody to have one thing at least to be grateful for every day. I actually write what I'm grateful for in my weekly journal. You might use a journal to track your emotions, day by day, and what you felt and what you were feeling. And also, I definitely encourage people to look at something called an energy tracker, an energy journal, where you track how your energy is throughout the day. And we've talked about that before. So I hope I've convinced everyone why a journal is a great idea. And of course, the other thing I missed out is also to journal, what you've been doing, how, to remember things, to remember those memories, to remember those exciting things that you did. Imagine if you kept a journal now for, like me, 23 years. I can trace what I was doing 23 years ago, which is fantastic. So, so let's talk about the how. Let's talk about the how of journaling. Well, I like to say, keep it simple. I have this journal, and all it simply is, and hopefully you can see it on the camera, is it lists the days down the side, and it lists a blank page. And that's all I have is 2 pages. There are lots of journals that you can get that ask you, about prompts and ask you questions and to prompt you. I have the questions in my head. The questions in my head are, what am I grateful for? What went well this week? What didn't go well this week? What did I learn? And what am I going to do differently? And lastly, what am I going to try and achieve next week? Or what is my intentions for next week? Do you see why I changed my language there? I said try, and then I changed it to the word intention. And we talk a lot about language, don't we? About flipping that language and making it more positive so you take positive steps. Now, there's lots of journals out there. You can get journals where you're asked questions, as I've said. Sometimes they're electronic. Sometimes, you use a pad. I use an Apple. Very lucky to have an iPad, and I have an Apple Pencil. Isn't it amazing the way Apple have, invented the pencil? There's the Apple Pencil 1. Now there's the Apple Pencil 2. Maybe I wonder what the Apple Pencil 3 is going to do. It's going to be amazing, isn't it, when it comes out? But I simply I use paper and pad and pen, sorry, when I write my journal, and I use my Apple Pencil for taking notes on my pad. I don't use my Apple for journaling because I like the process of having a book. So yeah, I would suggest you keep it simple, because it's more likely if you keep it simple and listen to the other 5 tips I have, that you're going to be able to keep the journal and you're going to keep it going, because this is all about building a habit. It's all about building the habit of sitting down and emptying your mind and getting it out onto paper. I also suggest that you stick to a couple of rules, and the couple of rules is that you think about how much you want to write, and just be specific, and try and write that amount, but also try and write less than that amount. I think sometimes it can become very laboured, so I literally have the rule where I answer my 5 questions there. I don't use the date bit, by the way. The only bit I use is the top date bit. I answer my 5 questions, and you know what they are. What are you grateful for? What went well this week? What didn't go well this week? What did you learn? What are you going to do differently? And what are your intentions for next week? And then on the next page, or if I continue, I just write about my feelings. So this week I did this and I felt this, and I wanted to do this, and this was interesting, and I talked about on the internet about writing a journal, and then I just sort of write to myself. But I only do it for 2 pages. I don't go beyond 2 pages, and that's the limit I set. I also sometimes sneak out and go and do it in a pub. I know, isn't that awful? And the limit I set my is from the time I drink my drinking, that's the time when I should have done my journal. So if I go out for a cheeky pint, and if you're not from the UK, that's a term we use, a cheeky pint, which means a little cheeky, sneaky pint of ale, or I quite have a Guinness sometimes. I quite like a Guinness. But it could be a glass of wine, it could be a cup of tea, it could be coffee, it could be whatever you want it to be. It could be a chocolate bar, it could be an apple, it could be a banana. But the idea is that you have something to set your time with. So that's tip number 1, was keep it simple. Number 2 was to write a specific amount and write less if you can. That was tip number 2. Tip number 3 is pick a time, a place, and build a habit. Put it in your diary, put it in your schedule for when you go and when you're going to do it. We all know that saying, what gets scheduled gets done. And I try and do it on a Sunday. I try and get it out the way on a Sunday. And if I can't do it on a Sunday, I do it first thing Monday morning. Maybe if I'm traveling on a train, I do it then. Or I might do it on a Saturday if we've got a family day on the Sunday. But what gets scheduled gets done. Number 4, choose the kind of journal that you're going to write in. I love these little journals. I love the feel of them, the paper of them. I love this little thing that you can hook over the side. And I also try and buy one that's got this little thing in, the little marker in. And why do I do that? Well, this keeps it nice and neat. I can put a pen in it. I can find the day easy. I've removed all the friction, and I love the feel of it. And actually, when you line up 23 of these side by side, it looks quite effective, and it looks, looks fantastic. My own little personal library. So, choose a kind of journal that you're going to keep, that you want to write in it. It can be a booklet. Go out and buy something nice and do it that way. Don't spend too much on it, because you might feel bad if you don't fill it in. These are about, I think they're about £10, these. But I think it's worth the investment. And I actually get quite excited when I order my new journal for each year. I also, a little tip I have is I buy an educational one, which you basically, it starts in June and it finishes in December. Now what I do is I actually use the sort of the months before December, which is like all these, and I write notes. I write notes on things I've read and just little tips and reminders. So if I watch a webinar and I think it's really good, I just spend a page to put my learnings in there. So I have sort of, I was going to say 6 months of learning. It's not. It's basically 6 times 4 equals 24 pages of notes about learnings, about things that I think should be put in my journal. So that's number 4, is pick a journal that you're going to enjoy using, okay? And then number 5, and this is the most important one, is you review it on a regular basis. Every month, spend time reading your last 4 entries or your last year entries, and however you do it. You might do it daily or you might do it weekly like I do. So if you only do it weekly, then that's only 8 pages to read in a monthly review. Then 3 months later, review the last 3 months and see what you've been doing and how you've grown and how you've celebrated. And then make a plan in your journal. So tip number 5 is review and make a plan in your journal of what you're going to do next, what you're going to, what you're looking forward to. So why not every 3 months have a page that I am looking forward to this month? My intention is this month. Because we all know, don't we, if you celebrate something, there's more likely it's going to get done. And as I say, what gets rewarded gets done. What gets scheduled gets done. What gets rewarded gets repeated. Sorry, not done. What gets scheduled gets done, and what gets rewarded gets repeated. So read your 3 months and go, wow, what I've done and what I've achieved. And then I'm going to leave you folks with a bonus tip. And this is the bonus tip, is why not create a group journal? So if you belong to a group, why don't you ask people how they felt for the last week? And if you run an internet group, how have you felt the last week? What would you like to go in our group journal? What about a family journal? Sitting down with the family on Friday night or whenever night, and whenever you have your family meal at the table. Why not over dessert or whatever, or over a cup of tea? Why don't you write down with the family what everybody's achieved and put it in a family journal? You could do the same with a class, couldn't you? You could do that if you're a teacher or a co-professional in a classroom. You could have a class journal. What did we do this week? What should we celebrate? What did we learn? And get everybody to come together and do it. What a fantastic idea. And then the last thing, you could do that with your team, couldn't you? You could do that with your team in work or whoever your team is. You could do a team journal and you could bring that together and you could all conspire to each other's success. So I hope you've enjoyed my session on journaling. Just a quick review for you. We went through all the positive reasons for journaling, achieving goals, tracking progress, gaining confidence, improving your communication, reducing stress, anxiety, looking for inspiration out there in the world, and strengthening that whole memory. Strengthening that whole memory. And we talked about many different times, and I went through what I do in my little black journal here. And then I talked about 5 with a bonus, winning ways of how to keep a journal and keeping going with it. So keep it simple is number 1. Number 2 is plan to write at a specific time. Write less than you intended to do. Have a timer. Number 3 is pick a time, a place, and a day. Build that habit. What gets scheduled gets done. You might want to have a reminder for that. Do that. Put that in your journal, in your diary. Number 4 is pick a journal that you're going to use. Pick something that's going to feel good. Something that's going to make you want to do it. Something you get excited about. And make sure you review it. Number 5, on a regular basis. Review it on a regular basis is tip number 5. What gets rewarded gets repeated. And then the bonus one, number 6, was try and do it with other people. I think that's a great and exciting idea. And I would love to hear in the comments if you have done that, if you've been in a group. Look, folks, for me, rather than time management, as I keep talking about, rather than spending time, this is something to invest your time in. Make sure you invest your time in making a journal or writing things down and recording what you're doing. So